gonna be talking about the differences and comparing the Romanticism versus Realism in the 19th century in European art. These styles didn't just reflect how artists painted, they represented totally different ways of seeing the world. Romanticism came first, emerging in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. It focused on emotion, drama, and imagination. Then around the mid-19th century, realism emerged as almost a direct response or even a rejection of romantic ideals. Realist artists wanted to depict ordinary life and real people without idealizing them. By comparing key artworks from both movements, we'll see how these two styles approached things like human experience, history, and everyday life very differently. Starting with Romanticism, the first painting here is Liberty Leading the People by Eugene Delacroix. It was painted in 1830. This is a great example of Romanticism in action. We've got drama, symbolism, and movement. The central figure, Liberty, is this powerful, almost mythological woman holding the French flag. She's leading a diverse group of revolutionaries over a barricade. It's not a realistic scene, but it's meant to stir emotion and to inspire the viewers. Delacroix isn't just showing history, he's celebrating the spirit of revolution. The second work we have here is the 3rd of May, 1808, by Francisco Goya, and this was painted in 1814. This one's a bit darker and a little more tragic. It depicts the mass execution of Spanish civilians by Napoleon's troops. What makes this romantic is the emotional intensity. The man in white, with his arms spread like a martyr, is highlighted dramatically, and this just gives off kind of like a raw and human vibe. Goya isn't just telling a story, he's making us feel the horror and the injustices of war. So in Romanticism, it's all about stirring the heart, whether it's through heroism or tragedy. Now moving on to Realism. This movement aimed to show life as it really was. Not idealized, not romanticized, just real. It often focused on the working class and everyday labor. The first piece we have here is The Gleaners by Jean-Francois Millet. I probably pronounced that wrong. But this was painted in 1857. It shows 3 peasant women collecting leftover grain after the harvest. This kind of subject, poor women doing the back-breaking work, was pretty radical at the time. Millet didn't dramatize the scene, but instead gives it a quiet dignity. It's respectful, even poetic, and it's just a good look at poverty at the time. Then there's The Stonebreakers by Gustave Courbet from 1849. This painting shows 2 laborers, one old, one young, breaking rocks by hand. There's no glorification here. Courbet called this a portrait of social reality, and it's kind of grim. You can't even see the workers' faces clearly, which makes them feel anonymous, like they represent a whole class of people, not just individuals. So to compare to Romanticism, realist art was grounded in truth, not imagination. Now to compare a couple of the pieces, here we have Liberty Leading the People and The Stonebreakers. Both of these pieces deal with social themes, but in really different ways. Delacroix's painting is symbolic and emotional. Liberty isn't a real person, she's an allegorical figure, kind of a heroic fantasy, and there's action, passion, and a sense of triumph. To contrast, The Stonebreakers is grounded and quiet. There's no symbolism, no heroism, just the reality of physical labor. Courbet isn't trying to inspire, he's trying to confront us with how hard life is for the working poor. So while Delacroix celebrates revolution as something noble and uplifting, Courbet suggests that even after revolutions, many people are still just breaking rocks. Now to compare the other 2 paintings, the 3rd of May, 1808, and The Gleaners. Both of these paintings show a marginalized people, victims of violence in Goya's work, and rural poor in Millet's. But again, the tone and the style are completely different between these 2 paintings. Goya uses dramatic lighting, vivid emotion, and has a clear villain, the faceless firing squad. It's a scene of martyrdom, meant to shock and to disturb the viewers. It feels really urgent and is very political. Millet, on the other hand, is much quieter. The Gleaners doesn't show violence, but it does hint at social injustice. The women are barely scraping by, collecting leftovers. There's a softness to the colors and light, almost like a whisper instead of a shout, as Goya's painting is. Both of these works are critical of society in their own ways, but while Goya demands our outrage, Millet invites our reflection. And finally, here are the sources that I used for this presentation. thank you for listening, and I hope that this helped you see the differences between Romanticism and realism in the 19th century.